We received a response from the law firm representing Buckingham Palace saying that the palace needed to, quote, consider exactly what is said in the interview in the context in which it appears, end quote, and asked that we supply them immediately with a copy of the entire interview. We do not do that as a news organization as a matter of policy. Kensington Palace are not commenting.
Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Trigger warning, this entire video has a voice and his face, so if you want to skip it, I don't blame you, but I thought I'd put this together to show that this was a legitimate propaganda campaign in order to push a narrative or rewrite history for Harry and his wife. All the interviews that Harry did, Buckingham Palace requested to see the transcript or at least the context of what was being asked. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is to show you that each and every one of the networks that did the interviews with Harry all were given the same questions, as well as Harry's responses were all the same. So I'm calling BS on the fact that these networks couldn't let them see what the transcript looked like because it was all scripted. So sit back, get your popcorn. You're going to see how ridiculous this campaign looks in order to paint the narrative that Harry is telling the truth and that him and Meghan were treated so terribly by the family that they had to flee for their lives over to the United States. This is just a sample of all the interviews put together and how similar each and every one of them were. It is really just to prove a point that this is a PR push to change the narrative of the Harkles because of their reputation here in the United States, I think is plummeting. But it's also to show you how pathetic this attempt was. I think he should have done 2 at most interviews, and that would have been it. Not so close together either. It was just overkill. In my opinion, Harry's obsession with the media is not normal at all. And I think we need to really start paying attention to his efforts here in the United States and the people that he's dealing with because he really is trying to take away people's freedoms.
Look, the way that I look at it now, and again, I talk about it in the book, I was obsessed. I was specifically looking for stories about my wife so that I could educate myself on the opinions that were happening and things that were being said so that I could try to fix it.
So a large part of this mission is to try and change the media landscape within the UK for the benefit of the whole country. Again,
you know, my father said to me that it was probably a suicide mission to try and change the press. But
I can see how it can be done. And there's very few people within the world right now who have the evidence and the information that I have to be able to change that.
You know, having spent 10 years in the army, I learned a specific set of values. And if I see wrongdoing, I will be lured towards trying to resolve it, especially when I've had the unique perspective that I have had. I've seen behind the curtain. And, you know, if I can't continue to serve my country while based in the UK, for numerous different reasons, one because of lack of security, then I will continue to serve my country from abroad. And changing the media, who I believe is at the epicenter of so many of the problems across the UK where people are suffering, then I'm going to try and make a difference. And it may be incredibly hard, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but it is 100% worth it. Because again, it goes back to what I said before, which is I'm happy with them talking crap about me every single day because I know it's not true. What I draw the line at is when you're inciting hatred towards myself and or my wife and my children. And that's dangerous. And my words are not dangerous, but the spin of my words are very dangerous.
There's a lot of talk about the physical fight that the two of you had, where he pushed you down in the kitchen and broke the dog bowl when you fell on it. It says it broke your necklace. What necklace?
I wasn't doing therapy sessions like I was and being able to process that anger and frustration, that I would have fought back, 100%.
He knocked you over.
He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
You cut your back.
Yeah, I cut my back. Is that was just the motto. There was a lot of complaining and there was a lot of explaining, and it continued.
You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain, but it's just a motto.
In conflict, does your family really not explain and not complain?
No, it literally is that. It's a motto. That's all it is. And it doesn't really hold.
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
endless.
Private being done.
You said you didn't cry for years.
I didn't. The first time I cried was at the burial. Once my mother's coffin actually went into the ground, that was the first time that I actually cried. Yeah, there was never another time.
Why did you want to write the book? Why now?
After 38 years of so many other people telling a different version of my story, it seemed like a good time to be able to own my own story and be able to share it truthfully.
Why? Why have you written it?
38 years. 38 years of having my story told by so many different people. There was this weight on my chest that I felt for so many years, and I was never able to cry. So I was constantly trying to find a way to cry, or at least I thought that there was this huge weight on my chest due to the fact that I hadn't cried. The idea that I had in my head that my mother, that I needed to cry to prove to my mother that I missed her, when in fact, what she wanted was for me to be happy. I cried to prove to my mum that I missed her. That was an interesting moment in my life because I suddenly realized that actually she didn't want me to cry. She really just wanted me to be happy.
You have any examples of some of those stories?
There's a whole handful of examples in the book. I hate to bring it up because it's so petty, but it's the bridesmaids' dresses.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, let's talk about one of those, the bridesmaid, the wretched bridesmaid story. Story was.
But while I was writing the book, we were on version 29 or 30.
Your wife had made Kate cry.
There's been 25 versions of that story now.
Okay, but your version of it in.
She had a reputation or an image to rehabilitate. She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image. You know, being the third person within my parents' marriage.
I engage in a lot of magical thinking about where they were, and perhaps they weren't dead.
You talk about how for a while in your mind,
Magical thinking.
you said she's hiding.
Yeah.
Was the belief that, no, my mother is alive. She's out there someplace, and someday she will show up. That's a recurring theme throughout this.
Just decided to disappear for a time.
For a time, and then that she would call us and we would go and join her.
For those years, I mean.
For many years, I had dreams. I was convinced that she was still alive.
Genuinely appearing to have half convinced yourself that your mother was in fact still alive and in hiding.
Yeah.
There's no way this could have happened to my mom. She is hiding.
I mean, like you talk about seeing her in your dreams and saying.
Do you think in the 21st century there's a place for the British monarchy?
I genuinely believe that there is. Just not the way that it is now.
Do you still believe in a monarchy?
Yes. I talk about it in the book.
Do you believe you'll.
I was really happy for her because she'd finished life, she'd completed life, and her husband was waiting for her, and the two of them were buried together. I am now, and I was then, genuinely happy for her because she finished life. She had an amazing life, she had an amazing career, and she was buried with her husband. And you know, I've made peace with it, but I still would like reconciliation. And not only would that be wonderful for us, but it would be fantastic for them as well. But I genuinely believe that if me and my family can reconcile, can put our differences behind us, but first there needs to be conversation and accountability. Writing something, the truth, in one place, without going through the same people that they chose to go through. Otherwise, you're just feeding the beast. And I fully accept that writing a book is feeding the beast anyway. But I'm left at a position where these mistruths need to be corrected. Speak truth to you with the words that come out of my mouth, rather than using someone else, an unnamed source, to feed in lies or a narrative to a tabloid media. Answering the questions that you put to me, and the words and the truth will come from my lips, rather than using other people, especially through the tabloid media. And we're 6 years into it now.
You tried to do this privately.
And every single time I've tried to do it privately, there have been briefings and leakings and planting of stories against me and my wife. What people don't know is the efforts that I've gone to resolve this privately.
I have to rely on the truth, and I've done everything humanly possible in private for it not to get to this stage. But now I get to tell my story.
Can you see a day when you would return as a full-time member of the royal family?
No, I can't see that happening.
Is there a part of you that can see you and your family going back to the UK, becoming working royals with the monarchy?
No, I don't think it's ever going to be possible. The important point, which is we were forced to leave. We left in 2020. We moved out, we fled my home country. We moved to California. This all started with them briefing daily against my wife with lies, to the point of where my wife and I had to run away from my country.
Millions of words have been dedicated to trying to trash my wife and myself, to the point where I had to leave my country.
I'm not angry anymore. There are things that will still anger me, but I'm not angry anymore because I am exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Are you happy?
I'm very, very happy. I'm very at peace. I am in a better place than I've ever been. And I think that probably...
Or anything. There needs to be a constructive conversation, one that can happen in private, that doesn't get leaked.
I assume they would say,
what they have to say to me and what I have to say to them will be in private, and I hope it can stay that way.
But Meghan and I have continued to say that we will openly apologise for anything that we did wrong. But every time we ask that question, no one's telling us.
But I've continued over the last 3-4 years to ask to tell me what we got wrong so that we can address it and apologise for those things. And every single time I've asked, I've received nothing in response.
Oh, maybe that's lofty thinking.
I mean,
It was such a fraud.